live radio, local podcasts, the Frederick Podcast Network at listenfrederick.com.
The Fedora Files.
Hello and welcome to the Fedora Files. I'm Gregory Fedora, and with me is a special guest, Ryley from Midwest Mythos, and I almost mispronounced it, but I think I made it through it. Like we were joking about that before we started, but I got through it, I think.
You did perfect.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for coming, and I'm glad you're here. I got with you, I think a little over a month ago. I was trying to get you on here, but you had family things going on, which, I don't know if people in your podcast know what happened, so I don't want to share that unless you want to, but congratulations either way. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah, actually, you messaged me like 3-4 days before my wife went into labor, so I was like, how about we wait till this baby gets here, and I'm 100% down to come on and talk with you.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's big changes, man. I know what that's like. So yeah, it's good to see that you're actually awake, because I don't think I was awake for 6 months after our first. So
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I just took a 2.5-hour nap before this. So
nice. So first of all, you do your podcast, the Midwest Mythos, and I mispronounced it that time, but and it's really cool. I've been checking it out, and I checked out your most recent one about the Amazon, and that's pretty awesome. And so first of all, what got you into this area of because there's a few of us out here who are really into this, and how did you spring into this?
So it's a pretty long story, but the medium length version is, ever since I was little, my father, he was super big into the sci-fi, low budget, so we were always watching the sci-fi, and he was really big in the History Channel and stuff. So we were always watching low budget movies about aliens and ancient history and stuff like that. And whenever we weren't watching that, it was History Channel documentaries, Animal Planet, travel. So my whole life I've been exposed to the unknown, the whole just, hey, this is what we think happened, but the reality of it is something else probably happened. So I was super big into Monster Quest, finding Bigfoot, ancient aliens. I'll tell people ancient aliens is one of my cornerstones. That's what really got me going, that and finding Bigfoot. So with that interest in mind, I was always reading books, checking them out at the school library, getting made fun of, but who cares? I like what I liked. So about junior year in high school, I started listening to podcasts hardcore because the summer before that, my dad got real big into Joe Rogan. So I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to this. And then once I got caught up at a point, it's I need another podcast. So I had a bunch of time in class because I was in a bunch of self-taught classes and college classes in high school, so we could have our earbuds in. So I stumbled across Sasquatch Chronicles, and I started listening to this, and I was like, wait, people actually call in to somebody to talk about this stuff. This is awesome. So through listening to that, the second episode I was on, Tony Merkel's Confessionals, he was just starting it out. I think he only had 10, 15 episodes out at the time. And I started listening to that, and I was instantly, once I was wait, now they're talking about aliens and everything else, and people actually want to call somebody and talk to people about this. So I was real big into that for years. So I just listened, and then 2.5 years ago now, I met Shane Jones from Inquiries of Reality, and I was like, hey, we just instantly, it was like stepbrothers. We just became best friends at an event. And I mentioned in passing, I was like, yeah, I've always kind of wanted to do a podcast, but I really don't know how to do it. And he's like, well, I'll teach you. So it was 2 years about bouncing back and forth, just waiting for me to get a stable point in my life in which I can do the show. So in May of this year, I was like, all right, Shane, I'm doing this. Come on, be my first guest. And since then, I was just like, all right, I guess this is actually happening. And it is honestly one of the best decisions I've ever made because doing what we're doing right now is my favorite thing to do. I love talking to people. I love
Mm-hmm.
having good conversation about things that in the everyday life you don't always get to talk about.
Yeah, Shane's great. I love Shane. He's been on my show. I've been on his, and so like that. Like I saw that he was your first guest. I was like, oh, that's a good first guest. You know, like I didn't meet him till I think 2 years ago, and then we hit it off at I think it was a Halloween event down in West Virginia, and we both were there. And I had my puppet with me. It's a Snallygaster puppet, and we started talking, and he and I we exchanged information, and I think a month later I was on his show. But he's a cool guy. So I'm curious, like now of the stories you've come across, like I was going through all of your different stories you've had on your show. Um, what is one of the ones that like when you were like finding out about it that like really blew your mind that you're just this is insane like when you're because see the different people you've talked to and it's pretty cool how you're getting them on there to talk about their experiences. Like what was one that really threw you off that you're like, oh my gosh, this is nuts?
It's almost a tie between Kevin from Where the Weird Ones Are, his
Mm-hmm.
possible dogman encounter, and then Shapeshifters in the Wisconsin Whoops episode, his we he don't know and I'm not 100% either because I didn't see it. His tall Sasquatch-like creature just standing at the edge of his property, then this green light just comes down right upon it. When I heard both of those, I was just like, oh my, like I just felt my skin kind of crawl. I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, I don't know what I'd do if I saw that.
run run away.
Probably.
Yeah, people have talked about like, well, especially paranormal stuff is one that I kind of like wig out about just because I have a, like, I think seeing a Bigfoot or something, I'd be able to look at it for a few minutes and then I'd probably run. But like any ghost stuff, and I've had a couple experiences, but like that stuff freaks me out because I can't see it. And like, I don't know what they look like. And for me, if I don't see it, don't know what they're looking like, it is beyond like I don't want to deal. I have friends who are into it, but I'm like, no, no. They're like, you want to go to a haunted house? I'm like, a real one or one of these ones at Halloween? They're like, a real one. I go, no, I don't want to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel that. I was the same way until Shane and I and a couple other people went to the old Blackford County jailhouse down in southern Indiana, and
Oh
that
yeah.
yeah, I had to get over that real quick because I was like, I mean, I just paid good money and drove quite a while to be here, so let's get over it.
So did you, when you were down there, did you have any experiences that were like unexpected or?
So sadly, not the only. I mean, there was like some weird feelings because
Mhm.
I personally have had a few paranormal experiences, and like I got the feeling of when similar to like when those were about to start, but nothing really happened. Apparently, really the only thing that happened was when Shane, his girlfriend, and I went down to the gas station to get some pops for the night.
Mhm.
Some dude that was with us, the rest of the people went down into the catacombs, and he was just chilling eating pizza, and a broom flew off the wall towards him.
Really?
And but that was really the only thing. Though the people that we went with had been there before and they had like something chase them out of the catacombs and stuff like that. But this time it just wasn't
Hmm.
there was nothing really. The owner had photographic evidence of some stuff that was really creepy, but for us
Yeah.
personally, there wasn't too much. I've experienced more terrifying stuff in a blueberry field than in that place.
That's awesome. So, of your like, I'm curious, like everybody uh, has that one monster that they love. Which one of the different cryptids out there is one that you like really are into and would just like would love to able be able to say, dude, I saw it.
So the last couple times I've been asked this, I've said Sasquatch because that's something I've always been into.
Hmm.
But I've had this reawakening to one of my favorite fascinations of when I was little, just because one of the major hotspots for them in the country was only 35, 40 minutes from where I grew up, and that's the melon heads.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, I should start telling people that because that's something that not everybody knows and they can really get into.
Yeah. Man, the melt, like, and those are really cool because there's like different theories of what they are and where they come from. Like, which theory of the melon heads do you fall into? Like, what do you think
So
they are?
I really do believe that at least the ones in Saugatuck, Holland, Michigan
Hmm.
was a rich dude working on young children with like hydrochromia.
Hmm.
But after recently and just learning about a bunch of the occult stuff,
Hmm.
I really believe that there is like an occultic paranormal aspect, whether it be stuff like spirits and stuff taking over these kids and manipulating them and or um taking their unfortunately their I don't want to be too morbid with it, but their corpse
Hmm.
or something like that and just taking full control of it, preventing it from aging normally and stuff like that, and they just roam the woods.
Hmm.
But it's one of those ones that definitely has a well, fun to learn about history
Yeah.
because I mean, a lot of these places you can actually go to, you can see the mansions out in the woods and stuff like that. And in the early 30s and in the 40s, I mean, it wasn't uncommon for doctors, especially in the age of new medicine, to be doing stuff like that. So to me, it's very believable.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of. I think it's Eureka Springs down in Arkansas. Like there was a guy who like was a crooked doctor who supposedly was curing cancer for a fee, and he wasn't curing anybody, and basically just stole all these people's money. But he was doing really horrible experimentations and stuff, and the only beauty of it all was that in the end he ended up getting pancreatic cancer and dying. So it was like you're like you're like yes. So that's
Justice.
yeah. So you're like God got him. So in the end he got his. But so you've been doing this a few months now.
Mhm.
Is there a guest that you would love to try and get on your show
That I haven't had yet.
that you have not had yet?
Uh, yes, actually. Um, I would like to. Shane's had him on his show before. His name's Pat Spain.
Hmm.
He used to be on. He had a show on National Geographic, but it got cut short because he ended up getting, I believe it was stage 4 cancer.
Oh,
But
really?
he ended up beating it and is in remission.
Oh,
So
nice.
his show was actually one of my big inspirations growing up, and apparently he's more than happy to come on people's shows and stuff. So
Oh, very cool.
he
So,
traveled the world searching for cryptids,
hmm.
but not the real well-known ones. Like the most well-known one that he's searched for in the few episodes that his show actually had was like the Mongolian death worm or
Okay.
Bepe from the Congo.
Yeah, like the brontosaurus or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. That'd be you should get him then, man. Go for that. That'd be because you probably have a lot to talk about because he inspired you.
Yeah.
So he's like I've thought about like the different guys out there, um, and there's so many that I like. I'm always like coming across. Like, I wish I could go back in time. I wish I could get like Art Bell, but you know, obviously you can't now. But like
Yeah.
he's one of those that would have been phenomenal, and he seemed like an amazing, pretty cool guy, and he's kind of like the grandfather of it all. Like
Yes.
going out and getting all these stories. I mean, I did manage to get Shane Jones, So I mean, that's a big get, because he's a busy man.
Yes,
Like
he.
I think he has like what, 3 podcasts now, and
Oh, he just announced a fourth one.
oh, so he's on fourth now. Dang, that guy, man, he is like he's got a monopoly of
He,
podcasts.
he
So
does. I'm very happy to be partnering with him in Open Minds Media.
nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I saw that you were part of that. I was like, that's very cool. So now here's one. I've never asked anyone this question, but what is one cryptid that you hope and pray does not actually exist? Instead, usually people ask, which one do you hope exists? Which one do you hope does not? Like, you're like, please don't let this one be real.
I'm either gonna have to go with the Snallygaster.
Oh, yeah.
That thing would be pretty terrifying. Or what are they called? The horned serpents.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Those,
And
those wouldn't be, yeah, they're up there with like, yeah, you don't want to deal with that.
and
Yeah.
it's extra concerning for me being from the Great Lakes area.
Hmm.
So yeah, I know
Well,
they got some lore in this area.
yeah. Well, I live right near South Mountain, which is where the Snallygaster is supposed to live. So I'm glad that I've not seen it. And like I've actually, it's really funny. Like I think I told Shane about this. Is when I moved to this house, I had, and it's really fascinating to me. Like a lot of people in Maryland have never heard of the Snallygaster, which is to me crazy that it's like the oldest cryptid besides Sasquatch. Like it beats the Jersey Devil by 5 years. So it's like it goes Sasquatch, Snallygaster, Jersey Devil, and then you get into like some of the lake monsters. But Maryland doesn't know about it, and they don't really celebrate it. Like West Virginia celebrates Mothman like crazy,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, but like they don't. They're just now like the town, Middletown, which is right by South Mountain. This is the first year that they had a Snallygaster festival, like at all. And I'm like, dude, how did you not have anything for over 100 years? 200. Like way well over 200 because it's 1730. But like nothing until this year they have one. And I was like, that is insane.
That
But
that blows me away because it's one of the few cryptids that we've had a president of the United States try
yeah,
to go out, like shut down
and
a whole meeting or address, I forget which one it was, to go hunt this thing based off a
yeah,
rumor that he had heard.
yeah, and he wrote about, yeah, Roosevelt wrote about it in his presidential journals and stuff. Uh, I've met, there's a lady, Sarah, who has the Snallygaster Museum, and she has copies of what he wrote about it, like what Teddy Roosevelt actually wrote about the Snallygaster. And it's like, dude wrote about it. I mean, he wrote about Bigfoot too and stuff, but it's like, come on, then like that's pretty incredible. And people like there is a Snallygaster festival in DC, and I went to it, and it's just like a beer fest, and it's like has nothing to do with other than the name. And I was kind of disappointed. I was like, what? It's just a place where all these like breweries get together and you can try beer. And I was like, which I'm not against that. I was just like, I was hoping there's going to be something Snallygaster related, but I was like, man.
Maybe I'll have to make my way out there next year to go to the actual Snallygaster Festival.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it'll be next year. I'll be there. I'll be there. So
Sounds good.
yeah,
I'll keep
yeah,
my eyes open for a date.
yeah. I'll let you know because I told Shane I'd tell him as well when it was gonna be because maybe y'all both can travel on over and then we'll go up on South Mountain and see if we can find it.
All right,
So
that sounds like a plan to me. I'll put
yeah.
it in the books. I'll tell my wife, and
Like yeah, we got to head to Maryland. Yeah,
she'll be fine with it. We
yeah,
both want to go out to the East Coast.
yeah. It's good. It's good times. And so yeah, so like you've been going out like a few months, like since May. I'm bad at math, but like about 8 months, basically May, June, July, August, September, 5 months. I'm bad at math. Told you. And
Hey, it's all
so,
good.
but you probably been playing it. You obviously been playing for way longer than that. So, like the last one you did was on the Amazon. And can you kind of like, because I want people to like get a feel like, tell that story about that, how you got that set up. It's with your friend who's on a mission trip. And so because I want people to find out more about your podcast so they can like see what's going on. Like,
So when I moved down here to Indiana,
mm-hmm,
one of the first people I met, just because I moved down here to work in the church,
mm-hmm,
because I took a youth pastor position and a worship leader position.
cool.
So I was just meeting some of the locals around here, and I went into this coffee shop that's all missionary work, and I was talking to the coffee. I joke around and call him my barista, Daniel, and he we just got to know each other. He ended up teaching a class. There was like this little evangelism school.
Mm-hmm.
I went. He was one of the teachers, and we just got to know each other because some of my friends are friends with his parents and him. So we were just talking one day, and he was like, "Hey, I just got back from the Amazon." I was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "You want to talk about it?" So we sat there and we talked for like 3, 4 hours, just at the counter of his
Oh, that's
shop.
awesome.
And I was like, you know what? Before we go any further with this, I told you I just started my podcast. I was like, let's get a day worked out. Come over to my house. I want to mess with doing in person, like just recording, because
Mm-hmm.
it definitely sounds different than what we're doing right now. Because I got one mic, so it's gonna pick up
Yeah.
all the spatial stuff. So it was a little test, but yeah, he was like, sure, I'm down, and he just came and him and a dude named Bruce got called down to the Amazon to
Mm-hmm.
do some missionary work. And while he was down there, I mean, that's the majority of what he did, but he did so much traveling between all the countries down there.
Yeah.
And he talks, oh, if you listen to it, there's anacondas falling from trees, strangling people. There's the cartel, which he didn't talk about too much there because where he
Mm-hmm.
was at, there's not a bad presence of that, but a little deeper in the jungle, real bad.
Yeah.
Uh, I cannot remember if he talked about it or not, but he got the bright idea to rip a caiman out of the water with his bare hands. But it's just like stuff like that that I like to talk about on my show. It's yes, I like having guests on that are like researchers and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
and talking about the research, but a majority of what I like to talk about on the show is people's experiences and adventures, just like conversation like we're having right now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's not saying I don't enjoy the episodes where it's mostly just me sitting there listening to somebody talk about like all their work and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I do the show is so I can have conversations like you and I are having right now, just about the stuff that
Yeah.
I always wanted to talk to people about growing up, and there wasn't that many outlets to do it.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm like, hey, why not record it and let's let the whole world hear it? Maybe help somebody's life, get them through a tough spot or something like that, or give them inspiration to do
Mm-hmm.
something similar. Because I feel like, especially with something like what you and I talk about,
Mm-hmm.
you can't have too many people talking about the kind of stuff because everybody's going to have their different views, opinions, and experiences with these things.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like now, I found it interesting. I was looking at something the other day. I don't know if you've seen it, but like people, dinosaur versus dragon, stuff like that. But they were showing someone had shown like a picture of what in the Middle Ages, like 1400s, 1300s, like in even in Roman times, this drawing of a dragon, and it looked kind of like a mix between a lizard and a bird, and then it showed the transgression, like then what scientists said dinosaurs looked like, and this, and then now they're showing like what a velociraptor looked like. Basically it looked like a mix of a lizard and a bird mixed together. And so it's like we went from like that's what they said the Romans and all these people were saying it looked like, and they're like, oh, they would not know. And now they're like, yeah, they had these wings and feathers. It's like almost to the point that you're like, wait a minute, like maybe they were seeing stuff that, like what science has finally caught up to what the folklore and people were saying like thousands of years ago, and which I find fascinating. Like when you see, like especially when you see the drawings on the walls in caves, and then you're like, that looks a lot like this. How would they know that? You know?
Hmm. Well, I actually got some really good news for you
Yes.
especially with that topic. I have been talking with this dude for about a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
He reached out to me through Michael, who I've had on the show a few times to talk about stuff in the Bible
Mm-hmm.
and like time travel
Mm-hmm.
and light, all that cool stuff. If your listeners are hearing that,
Yeah.
but he's got a friend who's been researching this stuff for years, like exactly what you just brought up, and he sent me a bunch of stuff. He's like, "You do some research on this, so I'm not going in without you knowing anything about it." So I've been looking into that, and we're actually going to do an episode talking about exactly what you just brought
Nice.
up.
Nice.
It's probably
Well,
going to be first two-part episode.
oh, very cool. I'll look forward to that. Like I subscribed on you, like as soon as like I talked to you, I went on Spotify and got on your list, and so so I can like see when the new stuff comes out. Another like you're talking about the Bible, and it talks like it's in Job where he talks about basically Leviathan, everyone knows that, but then Behemoth. And then I always found that funny. Like people are always like, "Oh, they meant hippopotamus and alligator or crocodile," and I'm like, "Did you read the description? Because neither one of those sound, and they know what a crocodile and a hippo is." I go, and that does like I've never heard a hippo making the water boil, and I've never heard an alligator that a spear couldn't kill. And
Yeah.
so it's like so like like who can kill the Leviathan with a spear or put a hook through it? I'm like, well, you can do that with a crocodile. That's I've seen it.
Hmm.
So, but like so I find that and that like it's always like interesting how they kind of like scooch away from like come up with these weird, really to me lame reason excuses.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly what it is. They're just lame excuses. I mean, just also referencing Job, same passage. They're talking about ostriches and stuff. You think if they
yeah,
know what an ostrich is, they would
yeah.
know what a hippo and an alligator or a crocodile are, you know?
Yeah. And another one is I think it mentions unicorns. Like if you go into like the older translations, and I think they changed it to like the newer ones. They call it a gazelle, but said unicorn. And then for a long time, like they envisioned, like when you think unicorn, you think like the white pretty horse with the horn. And
Hmm.
now, but then now they was it like 3 4 years ago they found the fossils of it was basically a rhinoceros type of animal, but it had one horn, and it's that they it's and it and then there's references to this creature in some of the Siberian folklore and stuff, and it so they called it's a Siberian unicorn, and it's like it was hairy, but it was big, kind of like the woolly mammoth, but it had one horn, and so, like in my mind, I was like, that's probably what when they're saying unicorn, they're talking about that because they weren't. It was kind of a feared thing, not a like, oh, it's so pretty if you rub its horn, it'll make you happy. It's like, no, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't a happy thing. It was terrifying, and I find it like really funny. Like they're trying. Oh, they meant antelope. I'm like, I don't think they meant antelope because again, you read the descriptions and it's like that is not sound good. You don't want that. So
Yeah, and it's not like they would not saying there isn't like a mutation of a antelope with one horn, but
yeah,
how is every single person gonna know about that exact one of them? You know,
yeah,
it would still look like an antelope, just with one horn.
with a
It's
horn. Yeah,
not a different species. So I've never heard of that. So
yeah.
see,
I think it's called the Siberian unicorn. Like look at it. It's like it's huge, and it looks like a woolly rhino, but it has one horn. And and I was like when I read saw that it took me back to the passage in Job because I remember I was like yeah they talked about unicorns and in it it was again talking about it being powerful And to me, I found it interesting because in that, all three of those, like behemoth, leviathan, and unicorn, were all talked about as though everyone knew what they were talking about and had seen them and knew, yeah, you want to stay away from these. Like, because it's all like, it's God, I think, talking to Job at that point, saying, who made this, this, and this? Like, these were it, like showing, yeah, they're powerful, but I made them, so I'm bigger than that. So, but yeah, I find that those kind of things I find fascinating. There's another, I don't know if you've read any of like Marco Polo's stuff.
Oh yeah.
Again, like he talks about the dragons and stuff, and it's like, and again, I find it fascinating that they talk like people will be like, yeah, Marco Polo, man, he talked blah 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 blah. He said real dragon. Oh, he was making that up. And it's like, wait, everything else is like legit. You're like, yeah, everything, his travels, everything, he's brilliant. Then he made up dragons. Like, why is that chapter fake and everything else isn't?
Yeah, well, and then he talks about the dog-headed people too. It's like
Yeah.
Uh, Marco Polo, I don't think people realize how vast a distance he actually traveled.
Oh yeah, it's huge. Like,
It,
and he walked.
yeah, there was no, all right, I'm gonna get an Uber or I'm gonna go, rent trains or something to get there. No, he was walking through these basically unknown landscapes.
Yeah.
Just a shot in the dark. Hey, I'm gonna go get these spices and bring them back. But
Yeah. And then and the things he saw like were crazy. And there's another guy, and if I can remember, I'm not gonna remember him, but is another dude that is like, again, they're like, yeah, he's considered. I think he's considered the father of veterinary medicine, and I can't remember his name, but he did all these detailed drawings and writings about animals that are dead on, like about like dogs, cats, birds, and he had it, and then he goes into dragons and he like talks about them as though they're legit, and some of the descriptions are dinosaurs that we know about. And but then they're like, oh yeah, he probably just saw bones. I'm like, but he's being very descriptive, like to the point where he describes their skin, and then we now have fossilized skin of dinosaurs, and his description is the same as this fossilized skin we know now. And it was just like, how did he know? You
hmm
know?
that
But
that's the wild thing about that stuff. And I think one of the biggest, just sticking on the dinosaur topic for a second, I think one of the biggest hurting factors of the information that we've all been given for the last 120 years is that one, nobody knows about it because they've covered a lot of the stuff up, and two, everybody they besides like your small ones like even
mhm.
velociraptors, Hollywood and just media in general has blown them out of proportion. Not saying there's not some large ones.
Yeah, but they're
A lot of these things, I mean, look, we got Komodo dragons, we got giant water monitor lizards and stuff like that. What is what is so hard to think that maybe there's something like the size of a man,
mhm.
just like height out there
Oh yeah.
crawling around and stuff like that, or was one 500 years ago, 600 years ago?
Oh yeah,
I,
definitely. Yeah.
I personally don't get why it's so hard to think like that. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I found it interesting that I saw Joe Rogan posted this on his Instagram, but he posted this picture of this creature, and I can't remember what's called, but it was like when you looked at, I was looking at it, and it hit me. I was like, wait a minute, I've seen that, and they said has been extinct for 50 million years, and then there's this mosaic. There's two of them actually in the Roman times, and it has this creature in it, and it's like it looks exactly like the picture that Joe Rogan posted, and it's in this mosaic in Pompeii, and one is in Crete, and but then in it they're like they again were like, oh, it's a hippo, but if you look at the mosaic, there is a hippo in the thing, and it looks like a hippo.
hmm
And this thing, like, and whatever this thing was, they were attacking it because it was ferocious. And then the thing that Joe Rogan posted, like, yeah, this was a meat eating thing and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but it's been extinct 50 million years. I was like, but it looks just like the thing in this that the Romans called it a specific, I think is a ziophil or something like that. That's what the Romans called it.
Mhm.
But they didn't, they had a name for a hippo and they had a name for elephant. This was a completely third creature that they said that they had dealt with in Africa. And I was just like, again, like, like it's just bizarre, like how we do that.
It
But
it definitely is. It's well, man, now you got me on this topic, and I absolutely love this topic.
yeah.
uh, Going to the early church,
Hmm.
especially like the whole Catholic, in order to become like a saint,
Hmm.
you had to slay a dragon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're not. I'm not saying Christians are the most truthful people all the time because we're all fallen, we all have our flaws, but I mean, in order to put these murals and mosaics up in these cathedrals and stuff like that, showing these saints slaying dragons that
Yeah.
look very much like these things that are in the fossil record.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
mean,
mean, yeah.
they're not going to lie about that kind of stuff, especially something like that, which in
Hmm.
their eyes is like the holiest a man can get is becoming a saint.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had like St. George and the Dragon, and then Columba, who like in Loch Ness, that's like he's the first was the first person to write about it, and you like wonder like I guess with St. George, he got famous for doing it, but like in Columba's story, he just wrote about it. He didn't even like get anything for like saying, yeah, there's this monster in Loch Ness. And so it's like it wasn't like he made any money out of it or anything. He just wrote about what he saw.
Hmm.
And so it's like, it's one of those where you're like, well, it didn't like, like why would he write that if unless he saw something like, that's where I fall on a lot of these things is like with the folklore, like somebody saw something. I don't know what they saw, but like I feel like at some point like people see or do things, and especially I was talking to uh this lady Kristen who does Paranormal Girl podcast, and she's the same way. Like when you get like law enforcement or the military guys talking about these creatures that they've run into, it kind of gives some like you got to kind of believe it, because in that atmosphere, you're not going to go be telling stories like that because you're going to end up on desk duty, and if they think if you're going crazy, you know.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, but yeah, I find those things like so cool, and that's kind of I've really enjoyed your podcast because you're bringing on people telling their stories and their experiences, and like even like the Amazon one was cool. Like he didn't find any like cryptids or anything, but the stories of the anacondas and stuff is really cool. Like how he was telling about those experiences, and so I I I want to make sure people know how to find you. So can if you want to tell people where their links are, and I know that you also ask people to send their stories and experiences to you. So if you want to explain how to do that as well, I want to make sure everybody gets that information. And
I got
I'm obviously I'm going to put the links to all your stuff below on this, but I just wanted you to be able to tell everybody where to find you, and maybe even you want to say what's coming up in the next few weeks and months, what shows you got coming if you want. So
All right. I really appreciate that.
yeah.
So you can find all my stuff at Linktree, linktr.ee/ Midwest Mythos Podcast. There, you'll find links to like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and the number one thing that pops up on that page is a report. It's a report and counter form. So what
Hmm.
that is it's linked to my podcast email, Midwest Mythos Podcast at outlook.com. It makes it easier than typing all that stuff out in the
Yeah.
email. So you can just submit your um, encounter. Typically, I say in the description, I say keep it like short because I don't want to know the whole story
Yeah.
until we would possibly sit down and talk. And from there, I'm able to email y'all back and schedule stuff. As
Hmm.
far as up and coming episodes, right now it is I don't even know what I'm going to do for this week's episode. So it's kind of my goal with the show. It's new, so I'm making it
Yeah.
work. It's the it's the climb up the mountain right now. Is
Hmm.
The goal is to have so many just everyday people
Yeah.
wanting to come on and talk about their experiences and stuff, and researchers if they do as well, more than welcome to come on. So it's a building process, but
Oh, yeah.
it doesn't. You don't have to have some crazy encounter with a cryptid or you get abducted by aliens. I mean, if you're an adventurer or a traveler, it just have been some really cool places and learn like the history of the place,
Hmm.
or like it changed your life going to this place, come on and talk, because the mythos and Midwest Mythos covers all that kind of stuff. That's
Very cool.
why I didn't make it monsters and mysteries.
Hmm.
It's just I want to hear people's stories so we can gather the mythos. And so yeah, y'all can find me there. You can find me on Instagram at Midwest Mythos. I am always active in the DMs. It might be a day or two before I reply, but uh I definitely, if you message me there, I'll see it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And you did. Yeah. Like, cause I messaged you and you got back to me pretty quick. Said, I'm about to have a baby. So can we wait? I was like, all right.
Yeah. And
But
I'm really glad you reached out because this was a fun conversation.
I was. I definitely. I'd love to have you come back in a few months and see how you're doing and stuff, and uh, keep going. If you ever want me to come on your show, I'll come on yours too. That'd be.
I was just about to say you're welcome on my show anytime you'd
Yeah.
like.
So yeah, let me know when. We'll hook it up, man. It'll be fun. And thank you for coming. I know you probably want to get some rest, before the baby wakes up again, and then you need to start being dad. And I know those, you get sleep when you can get it, and
I'm very fortunate. I have a wife that understands the type of work I do at work. So it's when I get
yeah.
home from work, I get the baby, take care of her, and then at night, my wife lets me sleep. So,
Oh, that very nice, very nice. I see, it's good partnership there.
yeah,
So, yeah, very
exactly.
cool. Well, again, thanks for coming on. It's been a blast. I've enjoyed talking to you. You got and I'm enjoying going through your shows. I kind of went backwards because I started with the Amazon and now I'm going backwards. Uh, but then I saw Shane, so I went that to the Amazon to Shane's, and now I'm like kind of jumping around and listening to them. So I wanted to check out the one about the witch, which I saw. Like I've been reading the titles and like the synopsis, and I'm like, ooh, I want to see that one. That sounds cool. So.
That was on my old property that I used to live on with my friends. So
Oh, wow.
a lot of
Nice.
the stories in that one I was either there or heard about when I got home from work that day.
Nice. Dude, yeah, I'll probably be checking that one out tomorrow on my drive. So,
Sounds
very
good.
cool.
Thank you again for having me on. It was an absolute blast. I look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, you too, man. And for those of you watching, listening, or however you found me, and please go check out Midwest Mythos, and you will not regret it. And thanks for checking me out today. And remember to, as always, stay safe and keep searching.
The Fedora Files.
Check out fedoracrt.com today.